The India-Pakistan relationship has long been marked by tension and conflict. On May 10, 2025, a glimmer of hope emerged. The two nuclear-armed neighbors announced a ceasefire agreement. The United States played a role in mediating the agreement. However, India downplayed the U.S. involvement. India insisted the ceasefire was a bilateral decision. The news of the ceasefire was met with cautious optimism. People on both sides hoped for a reduction in hostilities. However, this hope was short-lived. Within hours, reports of ceasefire violations began to surface. Explosions were heard in the disputed region of Kashmir. Both sides accused each other of violating the agreement. The situation escalated quickly. India accused Pakistan of carrying out drone strikes. These strikes targeted areas in Indian-controlled Kashmir and the western border region of Punjab. Pakistan in turn accused India of firing munitions across the line of control. The line of control is the de facto border that divides Kashmir. The ceasefire, it seemed, was on the verge of collapse. The fragile peace was shattered by renewed violence and mistrust. The international community watched with concern as the situation threatened to spiral out of control. In response to the escalating tensions, India launched Operation Sindoor. This military operation targeted areas within Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Indian forces used artillery and airstrikes against suspected militant camps. India claimed these camps were used to launch attacks on Indian soil. Pakistan retaliated with Operation Bunyan Marsus. This operation involved strikes on multiple Indian military bases along the border. Pakistan claimed its actions were in self-defense. They argued they were responding to India's aggression. The city of Amritsar, a major city in Punjab, became a focal point of the conflict. India claimed to have shot down Pakistani drones over Amritsar. These drones, India alleged, were carrying weapons and explosives. The situation in Amritsar became particularly tense. As military operations intensified, casualties mounted on both sides. The conflict caused civilian casualties and damage to infrastructure. Homes were destroyed and families were displaced. The human cost of the conflict was becoming increasingly apparent. The international community reacted with alarm to the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. The United States, which had played a role in brokering the ceasefire, expressed deep concern. U.S. President Donald Trump, who had previously claimed credit for the ceasefire, urged both sides to exercise restraint. The U.S. offered to mediate further talks between the two countries. Other countries and international organizations also issued statements calling for de-escalation. Turkey, a close ally of Pakistan, welcomed the initial ceasefire announcement. They urged both countries to engage in dialogue to resolve their differences. China, which shares a border with both India and Pakistan, expressed concern over the situation. They called on both sides to exercise restraint and maintain peace and stability in the region. The European Union and the G7 group of nations also issued statements calling for restraint and dialogue. Within Pakistan, public sentiment was a mix of relief and anxiety. The initial ceasefire announcement had brought a sense of relief. People hoped for a break from the constant tension and fear of conflict. However, the subsequent violations and military escalation renewed anxieties. Many feared a return to full-blown war. Despite the fear and uncertainty, many ordinary citizens on both sides of the border expressed a desire for peace. They longed for a future where their countries could coexist peacefully and resolve their differences through dialogue and diplomacy. As the dust settled from the latest round of fighting, both India and Pakistan took tentative steps towards de-escalation. Military commanders from both sides held talks to discuss the situation along the line of control. These talks were aimed at reducing tensions and preventing further escalation. However, the outcome of these talks remained uncertain. Adding to the complexity of the situation was the issue of the Indus Water Treaty. This treaty, brokered by the World Bank in 1960, governs the sharing of water resources from the Indus River system between India and Pakistan. India had suspended its participation in the treaty in response to the recent hostilities. This move further strained relations between the two countries. The road ahead for India and Pakistan remains fraught with challenges. The ceasefire, though fragile, offered a glimmer of hope. It presented an opportunity for both countries to step back from the brink of conflict and engage in meaningful dialogue. However, deep-seated mistrust, historical grievances, and the volatile situation in Kashmir continue to cast a long shadow over the prospects for lasting peace. The international community has a crucial role to play in encouraging dialogue and confidence-building measures between India and Pakistan. By working together, there is a chance, however slim, to build a more peaceful and prosperous future for the region.